Hello and welcome to Rock Paper Shotgun. Today we're asking the question, which bit of our Doom Eternal hands-on was the most Doom? Was it the super shotgun with meat hook attachment, a grappling hook that pulls you into an enemy's face for instant disintegration? Or was it emptying rocket after rocket into the stomach of one of the new fire barons, watching his tummy come apart like a watermelon hit with a sledgehammer? Perhaps it was just the endless and hilarious parade of new glory kills, the instant kill moves that take a flashing enemy and turn them into varying degrees of paste. No, I think the moment that best sums up Doom Eternal is this, a cutscene where the Doomslayer hijacks a ginormous seismic lance cannon, empties the chamber and evolves into his purest form by becoming a human bullet.
Override loading sequence. Fire. Three, two, one.
I believe this is what Buzz Lightyear once referred to as falling with style. I got to play Doom Eternal a couple of weeks before E3 and by God has it been difficult to keep quiet. I got to play a fuller version of what is being shown on the show floor, a demo that whips us across the disintegrating surface of Phobos before firing us down towards the exposed core of Mars. If you saw the reveal at QuakeCon last year, you'll know that hell has come to Earth in Doom Eternal, but it's making itself pretty comfy in the heart of the Red Planet too. Everything you see in this video comes from the same level, which is an interesting change in itself. There's so much more variety crammed into one level, from the familiar metallic innards of a UAC facility to debris fields floating above a giant green vortex that can only be a bad thing, to the burning red pyrotechnics of Mars's molten core. Oh, and we get a little glimpse of a blue-tainted Colosseum through a slipgate, a realm many fans believe to be heaven. By the time you're watching this, Bethesda's E3 conference will have been and gone, and that might even be confirmed. But aside from being more of a visual pick and mix, what other things are in store? This video will pick through some of the biggest and best additions, and share some Doom Eternal impressions from our hands-on time. Because this is pre-supplied B-roll, the best thing about Doom Eternal is the one thing I can't actually show you, a microwave beam mod for the plasma rifle. Hold down Alt-Fire and the beam locks an enemy in place and pumps them with the mystic energy we usually use to reheat lasagna. Pump enough in and they explode. The bigger the enemy, the bigger the pop. It's an amazing toy, but whoever recorded this footage stopped just before bursting this pain elemental, making them the true villain of E3 2019. A curse on you, video capture person. Doom Eternal's Demons Arrive on Earth shtick ties it to 1994's Doom 2 Hell on Earth, but the comparisons don't stop there. Doom Eternal ransacks that earlier sequel for classic enemies. So welcome the Arachnotron to the gang, basically a pulsating brain on robot spider legs with a plasma cannon mounted on its scorpion-like tail. He's come a long way since his Doom 2 days where he resembled Krang in a baby bouncer. He's joined by the Pain Elemental, which is not dissimilar to a Cacodemon, everyone's favourite demonic space hopper. The Pain Elemental has tiny little arms and a big fat body, making him much more fun to burst with explosive bolts and microwave guns. We're also due an appearance from the Archvile, though he doesn't pop up in our demo. This is him saying hello in the QuakeCon announcement. But as well as new, old faces, we also see enemies from Doom 2016 getting a makeover to bring them in line with their older counterparts. The possessed soldiers are given the more human form of Doom zombie men, right down to the green-coloured crew cut, and the Mancubus is fleshier than before, losing the robot armour of 2016 to emphasise the large cannons on his arms. It means more belly to mulch up, which can only be a good thing. Finally, we have the appearance of a revamped Cyberdemon, one of the most iconic video game villains, despite just being a big angry cow, and looking way fiercer here than he did in Doom 2016. 2016. I can't wait for this thing to deck me repeatedly as I search for God mode console commands on the internet. As for things that won't try to kill you, I love how the health and ammo packs are rendered in the style of Doom 2. You'd think such video gamey elements would stick out, but it actually blends in with the hyperactive tone of the fighting. On a purely functional level, it's also way easier to read the battlefield, see which pickup is which, and decide where you want to rip and tear next. Nostalgia can be a crutch in modern game design, but I think Doom 2 nods are more than fan service. They bring lurid comic book colour to the world, as does the demo whipping us between locations in one level. It just automatically feels busier and more engaging. Doom Eternal leans into video gamey logic in other ways. New weapon mods in the level are grabbed as direct pickups, rather than upgraded with field drones. Now, this may be something that's only in the demo to speed up play, but I actually prefer this drip feed of new toys to the faff of finding drones in Doom 2016. I hope it stays. There are also changes to upgrades. Instead of Argent cells, which you would choose to pump into health, armour or ammo, you now have specific pickups, these blue health upgrades for example. Again, simpler, less faff, more in the spirit of Doom. Changes to runes could be more controversial. In Doom 2016 you had to complete rune trials, but here they're handed out from a pillar. If that sounds too simplified, I think extra combat challenges will appear, but maybe in a different form. It's not in this footage, but I found a hidden Slayer key to open a Slayer gate, but it was blocked in the demo. Looking through the gate, I could see an arena-style area, which did remind me of a rune trial. As for the rune itself, I got Equipment Fiend, which speeds the recharge of your equipment launcher, which is used for grenades. I only got one rune in the demo, so it's hard to tell if we'll collect lots more and have to choose between them, as in my last game. There are also hidden perk coins, which confused me a bit, as the perk I found, Vacuum, which pulls in nearby items, was a rune in the previous game. How runes and perks differ was not explained in the demo, but as soon as I have answers, I will add them to the comments below. You'll also notice a lives counter in the top left. These act as a second chance if you fall in combat, jumping you back up on your feet with full health. If you don't have a 1-up, you'll pop back to your last checkpoint, as before. It's an accessibility thing, partially. I've seen the devs describe extra lives as a guardrail around a racetrack, so that you can take their combat for a spin, but with a safety net. They're also meant to reward exploration. They tend to be hidden a few double jumps off the beaten track. I've nothing against their presence, just seeing a giant 1-up feels like the essence of the era that Doom originates from. If I could make one tweak, I'd maybe let people decide if they want to cash in a 1-up so that you don't eat through them with a dumb death early in a fight. I also wonder if they might release some of the tension on which Doom's combat is built. It's a system about pushing you to the edge and forcing daredevil play to scrape back resources. Might that be diminished with a 1-up looking out for you? I only raise that as a potential flaw, of course. Based on the demo, combat is every bit as ferocious as before, if not more so. You see, unlike other shooters where slow and steady can win the day, modern Doom forces you close, mainly by making enemies the main source of health and ammo. It basically boils down to this: if you need health, you need to soften an enemy until they glow, and then activate a glory kill. If you need ammo, you need to use a chainsaw, watching out for its limited fuel. Consider that the thing that can hurt you is the thing that can save you, and you begin to see the brilliance. Now, the team at id call it a combat puzzle, working out who to shoot or how to exploit them, but doing the maths with plasma fire racing towards your face. Doom Eternal raises the stakes in a couple of ways. As well as health and ammo, you can now milk enemies for armor shards. Setting an enemy on fire with the shoulder-mounted flamethrower sees these green pickups burst out of them like fresh popcorn. Shoot an enemy on fire and the shards rain out. I think the game could do a better job of communicating when you are low on armor. I mean, looking for health and ammo just comes more naturally, but it's fun to find a mob of grunts and barbecue them into a burst of extra defense. You also need to look out for destructible enemy parts. You can shoot the Arachnotrons plasma tail off his body, for example, greatly lessening him as a threat. And with a couple of shots, Mancubus cannons will shatter, leaving that big flabby sod a lot less potent. In a game that is largely about chaos and carnage, a few nods to precision are welcomed. On that note, while not all enemies have these strategic weaknesses, one of the best additions to the game is the flesh destruction. Doom 2016 did a nice line in gooey headshots, but in Eternal you'll see fire take huge chunks out of enemies. You'll leave holes in smaller grunts and rip through a fire baron's stomach to reveal his magma spine. Emptying a clip into the brain matter of an Arachnotron basically answers the question, what happens if you fire an Uzi into a blancmange? It ain't pretty, but it is welcomed. The lack of this physical feedback could feel a bit bullet spongy in the previous game. Here there is no debate about whether you are doing terrible things to terrible monsters. My favourite change is how much more open some of the fights feel. Fighting on the outside of the Phobos gun platform has a very different vibe to weaving between the tentacles in tight corridors. Outside we have more reason to use the heavy cannon's precision bolt mod, which turns it into more of a sniper rifle and pops heads like they were balloons. Hop inside and the wild churning energy of the chain gun becomes your best friend. Combine it with a corridor and you've basically got a blender. The game is still shepherding you between clusters of combat to arenas you're locked into until everything is dead, but even in this one level the terrain already feels much more varied. Some of this is thanks to traversal powers. The Doomslayer can tap into his inner gymnast on these swing bars, and a dash ability lets you push double jumps a few meters further, or quickly dart out the way of a rampaging Hell Knight. Combined with a new wall climbing ability, and it opens up much more verticality. Admittedly, in this demo, it's more used to navigate the shattered surface of Phobos and Mars. It's also ripe for hiding secrets. Descending this network of floating rocks and giant exploding barrels, perhaps the biggest we've ever seen in a game, can be approached in many different ways, with detours rewarding you with extra lives and hidden collectibles. Acrobatics and combat meet more directly in the super shotgun and the meat hook grappling line. There's a case to be made for leaving aerial enemies, cacodemons and pain elementals, until last so that you can use them for emergency aerial escapes. The case against that is the introduction of the new ballista weapon. Upgrade it with the Arbalist mod and you can fire explosive crossbow bolts that are pretty much a one-hit kill on flying fiends. Having too many ways to kill enemies is arguably a good problem to have. When you write down a list of exactly what is new in Doom Eternal, it might not run as long as most sequels. The meat of its improvements are felt under the thumbs. A couple of extra moves making speedy combat even faster, body destruction giving gun feedback a little more bite, a cast of colourful retro fiends forcing new tricks and approaches. Doom 2016 nailed the intensity, but Eternal has a giddy energy which feels entirely new. If you'll pardon a rather crude assessment, it's more immediately fun. A power fantasy, but without losing the tension that the entire combat loop revolves around. And man alive, is it pretty! Handing us 1080p capture of a game that looks and moves as smoothly as this feels like a bit of a crime. Maybe by the time you've watched this, it will have answered a few of the bigger mysteries around the game. They might have explained the invasion mode that sees friends invade single player as monsters, or described PvP modes yet to be outlined. Hopefully they'll explain the demonic corruption bar sitting in the top right of the screen. It turns green when you kill demons, but surely it can't just be a level progress meter. Time will tell. Maybe E3 already has. We'll keep you updated with any answers. And if you want to hear those updates, why not subscribe to Rock Paper Shotgun? And if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. We appreciate any support you can show the channel. If you have questions about the E3 demo, let me know in the comments and I'll answer them too. Hopefully I've got across the most important point, that Doom Eternal is shaping into hot stuff. I can't wait to see more, and I can't wait to show it to you on the channel. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you soon.